justice system that must take full responsibility for why rape and murder of women and children has become part of our daily lives. We call on a national emergency on police stations to be radically and urgently reconfigured as safe spaces for the report of sexual crimes. We call on investigative capacity to be immediately developed to detect sexual violence in domestic and private spaces. When an efficient police exists who acts with seriousness on reports of sexual violence and child abuse, there will be no one who will defy our laws in any capacity and in any space. We have assembled a legal team to take legal action on the Post Office and the Minister of Communication. This is because the safety of those who are serviced by the Post Office is the responsibility of the Post Office and the Minister of Communication. The killer of Nene was employee of Post Office, and it is alleged that he had a criminal record and a history of murder. A responsible government and employer should have known this. By employing a person with a criminal record, the minister and the government were assuming the risk of such an incident happening against any member of the public. Advocate Thembeka Ngcukaitobi will be leading this team, and contact will be made with the family of Nene soon after the funeral. The levels of poverty in South Africa, the rise of unemployment and general hunger has left our people fighting for limited resources. This has given space to agent provocateurs to lead looting of small businesses and malls in cities and townships. This has also been worsened by the misguided program by government targeting the raids of counterfeit goods amongst black people. If the raiding was genuine, how is it that certain malls were not raided by the SAPS? We call on fellow South Africans to stop the violence against other people in our communities. Xenophobic violence will never resolve the problems our country faces because they were never caused by foreign nationals in the first place. Unemployment, poverty, lack of service delivery, and high levels of crime are all created by the ANC government and its bosses in the white monopoly capital quarters. To kill another poor person with the hope that it will resolve your own poverty is a sign of self-hate, and that we live a lie. It is impossible for a poor person to be the cause of the poverty of another poor person. The battle must be taken to the real people who control our lives, the ANC government and big business that have failed to make our economy grow, create jobs, defeat poverty and unemployment. Africa's problem will never be resolved by disunity. Only a united Africa can resolve the problem that have troubled the continent for centuries. We therefore make no apology when we call for African unity, in particular renouncing the colonially imposed borders. The EFF has noted the Tito Mboweni, now ANC internal discussion document on the economy, as a direct declaration of war against the working class and black people in general. After the ANC conference was openly bought by white monopoly capital, we do not take it for granted that their policy direction is going to be dictated from imperialist Euro-American academy like Harvard University. Mboweni's document seeks the privatization of key assets of the state like Eskom, Transnet and water. It also plans to keep the banking sector outside the control of the state. It is a fact that with privatization always come job losses, casualization and outsourcing. We are back to the days of introduction of GEAR that saw the state companies being privatized, including the shutdown of universities. We call on the left in South Africa, from independent trade union movements to political formations inside and outside legislatures, to unite for the coming ANC war against the working class. The EFF will invest all its efforts to find a common platform for the left to emerge with a common program and speak in one voice. If a unity has been forged against the Zuptas overbrought church platform, unity can and must be forged against the coming neoliberal war by the ANC. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm now going to invite the rest of you with questions at the members of the media. So let's attempt the first round. By show of hands, number 1, 2, 3. If you are behind the cameras, I am vertically challenged, so I might not realize you. And if you are behind the cameras, I see you before I go to my extreme right. You'll be number 4. Eh? Is there anyone else there? No one. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's start with number 1.
CIC, Natasha Kuriga from SABC News. So on Tuesday, the ANC Women's League said that government is lukewarm in regards to dealing with matters of gender-based violence. Maybe your reaction is the EFF. Secondly, there have been calls for the death penalty, I beg your pardon, to return. If you could just weigh in on that. And thirdly, EFF members, well, this was on social media, EFF members have been named as perpetrators of sexual, violence and assault. And further, maybe just your reaction on that. Thank you.
Number 2. Yes.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, Molo Kumlok from ENCA. Just a few questions. When you say the battle to fight these attacks on women should also be taken by judges who care, what are you saying about judges? Do you get a sense that some of them perhaps are complacent on this sketch? And as much as you are saying that people must not attack foreign nationals, I'm sure a lot of South Africans will agree with that. But some will say practically they are confronted with a situation wherein some of these foreign nationals are taking up jobs which they should be taking. And all they are calling for is that people who come here in South Africa should only be bringing scarce skills. What's your position there? And when you say the battle must be taken to the people who control our lives, how should that battle roll out?
That's very much. Thank you. Number 3.
I am Tessa from the Daily Maverick. My first question is directed to you, CIC or Rana President. It's in relation to the fact that having protected Mr. Mkhwebane has withdrawn her court appeal with the Constitutional Court. I want to know what are your reactions to that, and why is it that the economic freedom fighters are still pushing for that, even though Mrs. Mkhwebane has withdrawn? Don't you think that maybe it might come across as some people have said that this is being used as a political tool, or you are fighting political battles in the situation? Also, the president has asked the Constitutional Court to do a full and open court hearing with regards to this specific situation. What do you have to say about that as well?
Okay. Number 4.
Good afternoon and thanks. It's Oliver from the National Opportunity. Two quick questions to the CIC. Media reports this morning reported that the NPA has taken the decision on whether or not to prosecute you for discharging a rightful lost share of parties in dispute celebrations. At the time, the party said that it was a toy gun and the shot coincided with sound of fireworks. Do you still maintain the same position? And then secondly, has the NPA perhaps been in contact with you in regards to this particular case as well?
Thank you very much. The government is reluctant to deal with the issue of gender-based violence because the government has not introduced a radical changes when it comes to dealing with matters of gender-based violence, from reporting to investigation to prosecution and ultimately matters being heard by the judiciary or judges. Women who are victims of this violence are made to report it in the open church offices in front of so many people who are ordinarily judgmental against victims of violence. Police who are trained to receive such information are themselves lukewarm and disinterested in dealing with these matters. They are not welcoming, and at times they don't hesitate to mock the victims to an extent of even calling other colleagues who are not hearing what the victim says to come and listen to the joke, what appears to be a joke in front of whoever is taking the statements. So we want all of that to change. We want the investigators to change and begin to appreciate that it is not of a less violent crimes against women when it has happened at home. Because many of the investigators, if it's between partners, is not treated the same as is between strangers. It is lesser when it is people who know each other. Even when the research shows that actually the woman was to say, my father raped me, my uncle raped me, the first reaction of the police is to doubt. That is not possible. Samuel, come and hear what this person is saying. Do you think it's possible? And you put the victim into a state of doubt. Am I crazy? Why would these people, treat me this way? And as a result, many others begin to just keep quiet and not say anything. Because if they say something, it's either a joke or it's not serious. If you are lucky, a person gets arrested. The following day, that person is there, sitting under the tree, drinking beer. You're supposed to pass there to school, to workplace, and pass in front of a person who has victimized you. From prosecution point of view and the judiciary, we want to make sure that it is not easy to give a person a bail. It must be easy, I advocate Mpofu, to win a case, but it must not be easy to get a bail. Because even at that point of getting a bail, the emotions are still very high. And everyone else says, even at a point when we're all angry, this person was still released. So, worse with me. My story is not very clear. So, imagine if I was to report this person, yet in the community there is no riot. People are not angry. They don't know my story. It's a very quiet story. It doesn't have attention. Imagine if I report such a person. It's going to be worse than that one who was exposed and the whole community was up in arms, yet he still got a bail. So we want the bail applications to be tightened. And if bail was to be granted, it must be under strict bail conditions, which will not make mockery of the whole system, because we need a system that bites and not the system that only bites, that is seen to be biting. Because it is something to bite and it is something to be seen biting. You might bite after 2-3 years when people have forgotten about the case. So when people have forgotten about the case, they don't see the system biting. They want to see the system biting and biting now. So that's what the EFF we are calling about. The members of the EFF who are the perpetrators of gender-based violence, such matters should be brought to us. And we've always acted swiftly. There was one that was reported here in Johannesburg now. During all this situation, we acted. There is a story of Butani, which was in the social media yesterday. But how do we act there? Because a person just sent is it a DM or something, says Butani is known for being to commit rape, assault and violence on women in Polokwane and in Teflop University, and cases are opened. Tobela FM knows about it. We're not given case numbers. We're not given anything. We don't want to act, and the next thing, we are forced to pay a lot of money for reputational damages of innocent people. So we want to act, and we must be empowered so that we can act decisively. We have even removed people from our list to Parliament with such criminal records and allegations, which there was a prima facie evidence. So we want to act and will always act. We want judges that care. You know, Muloko, the court system is intimidating. Just to enter the court, just to enter the court, you're already scared. There is no judge sitting there, there is no one, just that building. You're already scared. And then there comes an uncaring judge. And then start dealing with your lawyers and dealing with yourself. Yeah, what's the case here? We need judges on matters of this nature to be welcoming, to be sensitive, to be seen to be believing the victims, and not to perpetuate that intimidation that is created by the court environment. It's not nice to be in court. Even for these senior counsels, you must see how they shake. All of them, when they talk, they put their hand behind them, and they're always touching that gown at the back. You can see this comrade is panicking. Yet they've been in court for many years. A victim of sexual violence goes to court for the first time. And because of that intimidating environment, she's unable to even present her case. All we are saying to our judges, please be welcoming. We are dealing with madness here. Our women are being targeted. War is declared on them. Let's support them. Let the court be a welcoming environment for victims of gender-based violence. There is no one who takes a job from South Africans. No one. They are being offered jobs. They don't take. They are offered. They don't take. The owners, okay, let's start here. The owners of the means of production is white people. When you say private sector, it's a polite way of saying white people. It's a polite way of saying white people. There is no foreign nationals in government. There are no foreign nationals in government. Those cleaners, those DDGs, those senior managers, those DGs are not foreign nationals. There is no government that employs foreign nationals. It is the private sector. Simply put, it is white people who prefer foreign nationals over South Africans. And after employing foreign nationals, they come to you and say, darling, don't you think this borders being let loose like this has led to foreigners taking jobs, and as a result, South Africans don't have jobs. That's what they say. So they instill in that, in us, that no, it is foreign nationals who are taking jobs, when it is them who are giving them jobs. Their own restaurant. Because if we can quantify the whole thing, who employs foreign nationals between government and the private sector? Restaurants, retailers, the hospitality in general, the farm workers. Who owns the farms? Who owns the farms? It is white people who employ foreign nationals. After employing them, they come to us and say, don't you think these borders being loose have led to these levels of unemployment? Plenty. this self-hate amongst us. And because we are unemployed, and because we've got government with no solutions to crisis of poverty and widening gap between the rich and the poor, we begin to start believing that. They always tell us who to hate, who to love. They always tell us what is wrong, what is right. So the private sector, the white monopoly capital, must take full responsibility for this mess we are faced with. There is no government here that employs foreign nationals. If they are there, it's one or two there and there. It's not a serious issue in government. The problem we have with the so-called taking jobs is in the private sector. Who is the private sector? Who owns private capital? Is the white minority. That's why, even when we are killing each other, a human being is shown on a video hit with a big brick on the head, the rent strengthens. The rent strengthens. Because the owners of capital are happy that animals are at each other. Can you imagine if you had hit a white person with a brick on the head? What would have happened to that currency? Currency is not affected. The animals are at each other. We have successfully made them fight amongst themselves. And we are not affected by that. Capital is happy. We are killing each other. The rent has strengthened. It has never been this strong. In so many months, it is strengthened by black on black violence. When the blacks are killing each other, the rent gets excited. Who owns the rent? Who owns the capital? Why are the owners of capital disaffected by what is happening amongst fellow South Africans, if indeed they are with us in South Africa? Because violence should affect all of us, including the markets. So, we must not be scared. The battle must be taken to white monopoly capital. The battle must be taken to the ANC. They are responsible for this mess we are confronted with. They are responsible for this mess. So, it's not even about foreign nationals. I gave example that they said, when you are in Polokwane, and there is a restaurant opening in Polokwane, or there is a project in Polokwane to do road, the preference must be given to Polokwane residents first. Before you even go far, any economic development must benefit the locals first. Leave foreigners. Can you imagine what's going to happen in Polokwane when there is a road there or a restaurant? All those people can't speak the language of Polokwane. And those customers are, what's happening here? What is it that we have done ourselves not to deserve these jobs? What are you going to do? You are going to make the Polokwane people hate those people who are working in Polokwane, yet they don't come from there. That is a recipe for violence. You ought to give them preference so that if you go outside, you must say, we have tried you. There is no such a skill. We are looking for a chef who knows how to do prawns or sushi. And there's no such a chef in Polokwane. Because the Polokwane ones, they specialize with pap and meat. So we want someone who can do sushi. So we couldn't find. That's why we went outside. It is justifiable. There ought to be a reason why you overlooked the locals. It's not xenophobia. Our brothers in Nigeria, in Zambia, in Namibia, everywhere else, they've got a right to work here in South Africa in the same way they've got a right to work in their own countries. But preference will always be given to locals, including with South Africans themselves, among South Africans themselves. How do you go in Umtata there and then you open a restaurant when the customers are coming in Umtata? Thobela, lelo chiche le kae. But what's happening now? What is this now? What happened? Our children are not working here. Get thobela everywhere. It's a recipe for disaster. Even our laws, when it comes to procurement and employment, say we should prefer locals. There's no apology about that. But private sector of South Africa prefers the foreign nationals so that we can fight amongst ourselves. Wake up, Dagi. They've set this up. They've set us up. They've set us up and they're enjoying. If you doubt, look at the rent. If you're in doubt, how can the rent strengthen when people are killing each other here? Someone is excited somewhere about what's happening in this country. And by the way, those things are not jobs, Muluk. Those things must be done by students, by the way. It must be by the way. Can't talk restaurant things as jobs. You can't talk those retail things as jobs and farm workers as being jobs. We need quality, permanent, well-paying jobs. And in that space of quality, permanent, paying jobs, you can't find any foreign national. We are made to fight for crumbs because that's what we deserve as Africans. Well, we never said we are going to Constitutional Court to appeal the case. On condition public protector does that. We don't take our mandate from public protector. We don't even talk to her. She finds us in court joining her. We don't require permission to do anything. If our constitution is threatened, we will protect it. We don't need anyone's permission. And Shem, your favorite is supporting us. Your favorite president is supporting us. He says, let the highest cost put a clear certainty on these matters. Your delinquent favorite Jamnandas has got a problem with that. He says, no, the Constitutional Court must not get involved. When we're all, your favorite is Doji. He does everything Zuma style.
Yeah.
He has replaced Zuma. When it comes to delay tactics, the president says, you're welcome, Constitutional Court, come and help us here. We're fighting with fighters. It looks like we're not clear on what this thing means. Can you give clarity? Jamnandas, the main culprit, says, we don't want to hear you. Leave it. I don't even know why these ones are coming here because the public protector has withdrawn. We don't need her permission. We went to the public to Constitutional Court on Nganda, on Speaker, without permission of the public protector. By the way, when public protector was releasing the state capture report, Thuli Madonsela, I called her because Zuma was going to interdict. I asked her, are you going to oppose? She said, I'm still not sure. We're consulting with the lawyers. I told her we're going to oppose it. She came, joined us. We took a decision first to oppose Zuma's interdict against the release of the state capture inquiry by Advocate Thuli Madonsela. That's us. It's our history, Shem. We don't wait for anyone. Where we see a threat to the Constitution,
Yes.
we intervene immediately. We don't support death penalty. We don't at all. Anyone who says we must bring death penalty must come and present the scientific evidence of where death penalty has succeeded in reducing crime. You must come. You must not be emotional here and start taking wrong decisions which are going to victimize all of us. We were on social media yesterday. A list of different brothers was given there. Hey, this one raped me, this there. This one, there was a one called Pule, who later on, it was discovered, no, it's fake news. In the era of death penalty, kill. By the time we kill Pule, the news come later. Now was playing Lena. We can't bring Pule back. But the reason also we don't support death penalty is because the legal system here in South Africa is very expensive. You may be wrongly accused and you may not afford proper legal representation. And you go to intimidating courts and you are unable to express yourself properly, and the innocent soul get hanged. We need a system that is self-correcting, that if we've sent you to life, we can be able to come back and say, no, it was a mistake. It was a miscarriage of justice. Come back. We even sue the government. We compensate you. And then we go after the real perpetrators. Our people, our brothers and sisters are the ones who are going to be hanged. Are the ones who are going to be hanged. Yeah. In a system that hates black people. Because this system is designed to just hate black people. In the place of death penalty, we need a binding criminal justice system. Our laws are there. We are being failed by police. Must not be scared to say police are failing us. Police are failing us. Let's take Nene's case. She gets killed. The person goes and confess. Another, almost victim of this person goes to a police station and says, no man, I went there before Uyinene and I was subjected to the same process. I want to give a statement in support of Nene so that she gets justice. I'm worried this guy has confessed. He may get a lesser sentence, but this is his modus operandi. I want to give evidence. She had to go to police station 3 times on a high-profile case. 3 times. The investigator is on holiday. 3 times. To a point where she had to fight to say, okay, someone must just get a piece of paper. Let me just write something so I'm satisfied. Someone took a statement. Police. And worse, listen to her. She says, I found a female police woman who was disinterested. The investigator says, not here. It's not here. On a high-profile case like this one, where a person wants to become a character witness, she's not given an opportunity so that we get this man sent to jail forever. The aim should be to collect everything. They say to her, why do you even worry? Because the guy has confessed. But a confessed person, judge may be lenient and say, no, lenient, he showed remorse, he confessed. We want, and then he's going to be released. And then once other perpetrators see that this criminal was all over TV, he still got released. Oh, it's easy, most. They will just continue committing this. This woman goes and says, I want to help. Police should be welcoming that. They dismiss her. They dismiss her. Until she insisted that I'm going to help, I'm not going to rest until I give this evidence to the judge and to whoever matters, so that we send this person to jail forever. He must rot in jail. But he will only rot in jail if there is enough, sufficient evidence. Police don't go look for it. People volunteer. Even when people volunteer, they still reject it. Our police must take full responsibility for this mess. And there should be consequences for all those police that she has mentioned in a Facebook statement who were reluctant to help her. Action must be taken against them. A criminal case was investigated following the anniversary of the EFF at East London, Mdantsane. Police have made contact with me and they said they want to see me on Tuesday for a warning statement. I think they've taken a decision to charge me. But no worries, it's my life. Me and the establishment, we always fight. So I'm not worried about that. The journalists got to know that I'm going to be charged. Where before I knew that.
Wow.
There's a lady called Wendy, the journalist, Mendiwena. She knows the details of my case. I don't know anything. So anyone who wants to know my case, called Mendiwena. I don't know anything. She knows more than me. The police say we have taken a decision to charge him, but we are waiting for the right time. How can we wait for the what is the right time? Because if crime is committed, we must charge immediately and act decisively. So I will hear they said I must go and take a warning statement. So warning statement means you are charged effectively. So they are going to charge me, and I will answer in court. Because I don't know why these people are charging me. Mendiwena knows, I don't know. So I will hear on Tuesday and I will hear in court. I decided to remain silent. It's my right. And they must tell me why they are charging me. I hear people talking about rifle and what. I don't know those things. So I will hear what is the story. And it's not a big issue, man. When you are in politics, this is your life. From time to time you get charged, from time to time you get sent to jail. That's our life. We really shouldn't be worried. And if you are a friend, if you are a family of a politician and you are told the politician is going to be arrested and then you suffer stress, then you don't know what you are dealing with. The establishment will look for everything. For everything. There's one minister who was saying to me yesterday, hey, we're sitting here on social media as they were posting people who raped. Or maybe you will come across here so we can intervene decisively. I know, that's our life. If you are not investigated for tender, you are investigated for fraud, you are investigated for this or that, domestic condoms, we use condoms, what? Champagne, what? It's our life, business class. Business class. It's our life, Shem. Don't even worry about these things. Yes, sir.
Mr. President, thank you. Let's attempt the last round, ladies and gentlemen. We'll start with Matsiso. I still can't see at the back. And then you number 2 because you have spoken and 3, 4, 5. The daily member must conclude as always. Number 1.
Thank you so much, TD Madia News 24. I just want to
sorry, T, this is the final round, guys.
Sure.
Are you sure you're not bailing? Okay. That's fine.
That's always anyway, I just wanted to ask about the state of the organization. You're a few months away from your assembly. I understand branches have been launched here and there. I just want to chat about preparation. And then also to the leadership collective that's right there with you. Is no one vying for that position? Is there no one there to do that? I mean, you're not going to be contested. I just wanted to get that idea around what's happening, you know? And then, secondly, I'm trying to process this idea in my head, but you and I wanted to chat about KwaZulu-Natal EFF.
Yeah.
And you're worried that they were fraying from the center at the time. And then after that, then you have the 2 MPs developing their sword in the EFF over the CR17 leaks. And the question I keep asking myself is, if you are so in charge of the party and you're aware of what's happening, how did that happen? How did that actually happen when you are so aware? Is that not an indictment on your leadership when things like that happen and you, like us, supposedly you're caught by surprise? So I just want to comment on those two things. Thank you.
Let's go with you, man, so we know come back.
Eric Esbjörnsson, working for a Swedish newspaper.
What is it called?
Dagens Nyheter.
Doctors.
Yes.
Oh, that one, we know it. That one, yeah. I read something from it yesterday.
Oh, it does? Where?
In Swedish.
Oh.
The image of South Africa has taken a serious beating this week. And I see very upset reactions all over the continent. Not just, of course, it's worse probably between South Africa and Nigeria, which is serious in itself because it's the two biggest economies. But I see anger all over social media in Africa. And I'm just wondering, what's your message to people who watch this unfold in South Africa? And also, what's the way forward? How do South Africa repair this?
Excellent. Thank you. Edad.
I'm Shane from Sunday Times. Mr. Malema, first of all, I've got three questions.
Yeah, sure.
The first would be, I understand you stated the problems that have instigated that some foreign nationals and all the other issues that we're facing. But as an immediate remedy, your opinion on the AFF in terms of how the government of the day has handled the situation, do you think they handled it better? If you were in government at this point in time, just as an immediate remedy, what would you have done better than the government of the day? Number two, on your answer to my colleague about the EFF, people within the EFF ranks have been named in the anonymous accusations on various social media platforms. What is your broader view on that particular thing itself of people being named and shamed anonymously on social media without proper legal rules being undertaken? And then finally, unrelated to the issues of the day, the EFF Student Command in the University of Johannesburg, what is the status of, does EFF have a student command in UJ? I know you said during the conference of the EFFSC that there is no branch of the EFFSC in UJ, but we see, for instance, the likes of Gabriel Sheko, they continue to speak as members of the EFF Student Command. Thank you very much.
My question is just related to Nandani Salashiko. You had an EFF Women's March not so long ago, and the issue of the National Register for Sex Offenders actually came, to light. And my understanding is that it's not open to the public, but only employers. And I mean, if it was open to the public, such incidences like, the brutal rape and murder of women could have been prevented. Just maybe your comment on your stance on this matter.
My question, Mr. Malema, is two-pronged. When you say we call on the left to unite against the ANC in the war against that, you say presumably the front against the working class. First part of it is, how do you want to see this fight? What must they do? And secondly, are you also including the SACP to join you in this, given the fact that they also expressed their described over that document by Minister Mbowe?
There's been two articles written by some of my colleagues referring to the violent rhetoric that the AFF uses and how that specific rhetoric is escalating. Would you say that this is true?
I didn't hear the last part.
You say that the violent rhetoric is true, that it's escalating. Is that your question? You want to help Daily Maverick?
I'm not saying I'm helping.
Okay.
There's something that from that article that is
Yeah, that's fine.
That's interesting. Because I think the article also speaks about the drop in ratings.
In the
EFF. Ratings.
Whose ratings?
It's not EFF.
Oh.
According to the article. I think there's also a link to the article. Just comment on the perspective, the idea that there's a drop in popularity of the party. I think it was linked to that.
Thanks for helping Daily Maverick. Mr. President, I think that's it. There's no more help coming.
I was one day told when I woke up in the morning that I'm less popular than Zuma. And then I called him saying, was I ever popular than Zuma? Someone didn't tell me that. I should have celebrated that I'm popular than the former president. I don't know how those things get to be conducted, really, and I don't take them serious. I mean, Jamnandas is popular than Julius. And Musi, and I mean, it's okay. If it makes them sleep at night, it's fine. I mean, I don't have a problem. I really don't. I mean, we just came from elections here. And that is the most scientific evidence we can present to you. Any other, it's a propaganda machine used to justify nonsense. Not going to be told by Daily Maverick, a institution sponsored by George Soros. It must tell me whether I'm popular or I'm not popular. No, Daily Maverick can't tell me anything. It takes money from people who are engaged in state capture and regime change projects all over the world.
Yes.
And I will never stop you from asking me questions or covering me. I've got no such power. But I know who you are. The hand that feeds you controls you. George Soros controls you. And therefore, really, I'm not interested in what you think. You have made the EFF a project, Daily Maverick. You have made the EFF a project. And it's a personal project. And you must know this, you will never win. Because white people do not know what works for black people or doesn't work for black people. They don't know how they can go and influence black people to hate the EFF, which is our 99.999% support base of the EFF. You have no influence at all in our constituency. So whatever article you are writing, you are talking to yourself and not our people. There is no violent language that the EFF is using. We are using a proper language to deal with violence. Because we are in a violent situation here. We are victims of racism, which is violence. We are victims of economic oppression, which is violence. We are selling labor to capitalism, which is violent. The only language they understand is the one we are speaking. And again, no article in Daily Maverick is going to tell us how we should speak. You are told by your enemy how you should fight them. They kick you, and then they say to you, no, in return, kick me this way. Yeah. Don't kick the stomach. Don't kick the stomach. Kick the thighs. No ways. We are going to kick you very hard. Very hard. If you say our language is violent, it means you are feeling it. We must double it. Must be doubled. The enemy is feeling the heat. The only organization in South Africa that is hated by white capital and the establishment is the EFF, because it presents an alternative. We are not part of the status quo. We are here to disrupt a dinner table of George Soros subjects. We're not here to make them happy. Unity of the left means the left. You know, Mologo, the Communist Party is not the left. It's a faction in the ruling party. It uses that name to gain positions in government. How can a left elect a multi-billionaire to be a president? How can a left support a multi-billionaire to be a president? A multi-billionaire. And even defend the multi-millions which were used to make him president. And then you call them the left. I don't know about branches of the student command. I think you must ask them. Student command, I don't know. I really don't know. What I know is that Goba is not a EFF member. Those things of student command, whether there's a UJ branch or not, I wouldn't know. Maybe SG will know. You know SG? I don't know those things. Well, you know, when people name and shame in the social media, even when there are no facts, we ought to be a bit considerate. We are at a crossroads. Women are angry and in a very justifiable way. So to talk fair facts, it might not be, you know, necessary now. We are dealing with a very sensitive situation now. And how we handle it, we ought to be very sensitive. And we just call upon our sisters to continue speaking out and speak truth to power. And it can only be truth to power if it's true. They don't need us. We can't tell them how they are going to wage their struggle against a war which is declared against them. They use all forms of weapon to defend themselves. They are hating, they are in pain. So to come and want to pass judgments that the social media platforms are fair or not fair, if we are accused, you all have the platform to respond. The Premier of the Northern Cape, who was named in Durban Survivors, he released a statement saying it's not true, and he has since taken the matter up with the police, and he has also returned to Twitter about such false accusations. So we men who are the perpetrators of this violence against women, if you think you are wrongly mentioned with malicious intention, you've got a recourse.
Yes.
You've got a recourse. You can take action, but to come here and tell women how they need to fight their enemies will be to perpetuate their pain, and therefore we are not in position to even enter that space. With regard to xenophobia, the EFF government will have acted decisively, because the attacks we have seen are not justifiable. It's an act of criminality. We must call them for what they are. It's crime. It's crime. Okay, let's say Nigerians are selling drugs. How do we solve that? We solve it by drugs, which is a crime. By selling crime, they commit crime. Do we solve it by committing crime? By murdering? By subjecting people to mob justice and kangaroo courts? You cannot replace crime with crime. You cannot replace a tendency with a tendency. It's an act of crime. One caller says Malema must come to Captain Park and see these Nigerians selling drugs openly. And my response is, it's crime. Report it. The police which are refusing to act, you must report them too. And you can even bring that to the EFF's attention, that this place they sell drugs, and we'll send SG to go and buy. We'll go and buy SG. Let's see. And the SG buys. And then we'll go to the police that they are selling drugs there. So many people have been coming to report this case. You have not done anything about it. It's a societal, collective responsibility, all of us, to root out crime. To sell drugs is a criminal activity which must be dealt with through law enforcement. There's no any other way. You want a revolution? The revolution that is going to be justifiable is the one that is directed to white monopoly capital. Will be there. I'm not going to be part of stoning my own brother. Stone an own brother. And then go and steal from the car. And say these people are selling drugs. And then you steal things from them. and then I must come and join that. I'm not going to do that. Someone says on Twitter, no, leave this thing, we want you to be president, this thing is going to cause votes. I'm like, you can go with those things of president. I must be a president of thugs, of criminals who beat up people. When you are done with Nigerians, when you are done with Mozambicans and Zimbabweans and Zambians, you are going to go for Shangans from Guyana. I have to stop you now before you come to me. Now some of us can't even talk your language. They are going to ask us to make certain pronouncements in their language, and we can't pronounce Wow. Back to Limpopo. We are going to be victims. Celebrate and be happy. And say the nonsense you are saying about foreigners and Nigerians. Go on. When they are done, they are coming for you. They are going to say, no, the reason we don't have jobs here is because of these Zulus. They must go back to Natal. We don't have jobs here. Is this Xhosas? They must go back to Eastern Cape. We don't have jobs here. It is this Pedis here. It is these vendors. Back. Because there will be no foreigner to fight. But poverty will remain. Hunger will remain. The inequality will remain. I said the other time, bring all the buses, let's put all these Nigerians and Zimbabweans in buses, let's take them back, and let's see if you'll get an employment tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's a myth. It's the most stupid thing to think of. You are justifying crime, and you give it nice names called xenophobia, Afrophobia. It's crime. It must be dealt with as such. I'm not going to join anyone who beats up an African person. I'm not part of that mess. I will never even support anyone who wants to stone a white person. It doesn't matter the amount of disagreements we have with them. To come with a stone like this and put on the head of a person is unjustifiable. Not even a white person who has committed genocide here, not even de Klerk, deserve to be stoned with such a brick. You must subject him to a normal process. Let the law take its own course. It is wrong, South Africans, what you are doing. It's bad, it's uncalled for. It's barbaric, it's madness. It is not a Nigerian, it is not a Zimbabwean that killed Uyinene. It is us, South African men. It is us who are committing violent crimes against our women. The problem is with us. Let's solve it. Where there is crime, crime has got no nationality. Crime has got no color. Crime is crime. It must be punishable. Don't tell me, no, Nigerians must stop selling drugs here. Nigerians must stop selling drugs even in Nigeria. If they are selling drugs. Drugs must not be sold anywhere by anyone. It's a crime. It must be dealt with as such. All my sisters and my brothers in Africa who said will no longer go to South Africa to perform because of this violence, I support them. They've taken a stand. Take a stand, bloody coward. Take a stand. They've taken a stand. All those who refuse to play friendly games with Bafana, thank you for refusing. Take a stand. Criminals have taken our streets here. They are damaging the good image of South Africa. Take a stand. We will fight crime. It doesn't matter who's doing crime. We'll fight it. We must fight crime. But there is no way of fighting crime through committing crime. We're not part of that mess. Anyone with an EFF t-shirt must play very far from that madness. We're not part of madness. We're part of the solution to the problems confronting our people on the ground. And the immediate solution to that, to the problems that are facing us, is the removal of the ANC and confrontation of white monopoly capital. That's what we need to do. The anger in the continent is justifiable. What do you expect Africans to do? They must give us roses in exchange for beating up with their brothers and sisters, their relatives. If this was done somewhere in Africa against South Africans, we are even worse. We would have done worse than what Africans are doing. You say you don't want for Africans to drive trucks. Stupid. You don't even know that these trucks are engaged in cross-border business. They are not necessarily South African trucks. They go all over the continent. No, we don't want them here. If you don't want them here, they are not going to allow South African truck drivers to come into their countries. Therefore, these trucks, even if they are South Africans, they won't have business. Go on, bloody fool. Go on and destroy your own economy out of stupidity. You don't want truck drivers who comes from other nations. These are cross-border trucks. Ordinarily in that business, you get different nationalities. It's like that. It's like that. So why are you engaged in such stupidity? Please. South African men were made to run in Zambia who are driving trucks now. Because they were told our people are being butchered and beaten in your country. Stop it. If you want the continent to treat you properly, stop what you are doing. Stop it. So we are saying to our fellow African brothers and sisters, it's not all of us. Majority of us, we know that we are not South Africans. We are Africans. There's nothing special about South Africa. There is no South Africa and African continent. We are African continent ourselves. And therefore, we make no apology to side with the victims of xenophobic and Afrophobic attacks because we see ourselves in them. And therefore, you should please, we know that you're feeling pain. We know that you are angry. But it is not all of us. And we are dealing with that problem here in South Africa. Don't hate all of us. We are with you. We support the positions you have taken as African artists, as recognizable individuals, as sports personalities. We understand your anger and we support it. But please don't brush all of us with the same brush of xenophobia and Afrophobia and self-hatred. We love ourselves in the EFF and we see Africans as a mirror to show us of how we look like. We see ourselves through those people. And therefore, please find it in your good heart, because Africans, you are good people. Find it in your good heart to forgive us. We are sorry. We are ashamed of ourselves. And we sincerely apologize for this madness. We are sorry. Please don't treat all South Africans the same. We are dealing with these criminal elements who want to project us as people who do not love our own brothers and sisters. Forgive us. We come from a traumatized past and we are struggling in finding ourselves. We are still in the process of soul searching and will ultimately one day know that we are part of Africa. Our oppressors, those who have taken away our brains and mind, are the ones who have instilled in us the hatred of our fellow African brothers and sisters. It is not of our own making. We are still working on ourselves because they've said to us, we are better than Africa, and some amongst us still think exactly like that. will soon realize that we are nothing without our continent. We have no any other home except this continent. If things go bad here in South Africa, we will only be received well and properly in other parts of African continent like they did before. It will not be for the first time. The Nigerians opened their gates, Zimbabweans, Mozambicans, Swaziland, Botswana, the Lesotho people, Zambian people, Tanzanian people, Angola, they opened their gates and welcomed us. The people of Lesotho were bombed and killed by apartheid government looking for us. And after those bombing, they never said, we're no longer part of this nonsense. They continued to provide entrance as a frontline state for our guerrillas to come and wage a war against the murderous regime of apartheid. It is our turn now to say thank you to the continent. Instead, we're eating now and we've forgotten where we come from. You must do a thorough soul-searching, South Africans. You will realize that your acts are unacceptable. Money to the two EFF people. I'm not a Holy Spirit one. Holy Spirit. I know everything that is happening in the EFF politically. Mara urmang udyang kay lebumang ban na kurtsidi. Leta bala to bal lotum buchi kami jolo is khalor mangu jola le mangu. I get it TV. I only know politics. About to barekwa. They don't do that in the open. They don't do that in the. It's a secretive thing. It's a secretive thing. And asibona fair, we still have inside.
Can they come forward?
No. They are refusing to come forward. Because they told us, the ones who have given the money, that what?
So the ones who gave the money said to you that they are more with the EFF?
Yes.
And then you there's no way of knowing.
500,000 people.
No, we know the EFF membership is very big. Don't allow the enemy agents to divide you. They say to you, it's not only that two, there are others, and they don't give you anything to support what they are saying. All you do is to receive and wait for the right moment. So, because if we are going to take what the enemy agents say, we'll start seeing ghosts everywhere. And then we'll destroy our own movement through information peddling and lies. Where we continue to make a call internally that please come forward, because it's much easier that way than to deal with you through the EFF internal discovery process. Well, we're in politics, and in politics, intelligence work, information gathering work, and they don't always use formal channels. They use all types. They always want to know the strength of the other side. And you do that through infiltration, through buying of people, through tapping offices. From time to time, we sweep EFF offices because we know that it is possible. You know, one of the MPs of the EFF, after Cyril Ramaphosa spoke and gave a State of the Nation address, sent Deputy President of the EFF an SMS and said, "Boamba Zwabu de Mohulwane. Boamba Zwabu de Mohulwane." And sent to Deputy President immediately after the State of the Nation address. An MP of the EFF sent to the Deputy President of the EFF message, congratulatory message, you spoke very well. Then Floyd says, where? Then he says, hey, no man, I wrote your name, this, I sent a message to a wrong name, I meant another Floyd. But our reading of the message is that he saved Cyril as Deputy President, because Cyril was Deputy President, and saved Floyd as Deputy President. Now Cyril is a president. He forgot to amend and then sent to Floyd. Wamba Jabu Dimhula. Wamba Jabu. And he said, hi. It was sent to a wrong Floyd. I mean, there was no any other Floyd that spoke that time. There was only one man who spoke at that time. And that message can only mean that man. What can you do? We just receive. But every time the person moves, you're like, Wamba Jabu. Wamba Jabu. CD, you're going to get a form after this meeting. You're going to fill it in and go to your branch. And then nominate from a branch. And after you have nominated, we'll answer the question whether we're available or not. That question doesn't arise here. None of you has got a right to ask that question. Not even members, by the way, have a right to ask that question. Only the IEC says, Mr. Malema has been nominated. He meets the threshold. We're now going to ask him, Mr. Malema, are you available? Only then we will answer that question. But safe to say, all positions in the EFF are contested. That includes the position of the president. There is no position which is not contested in the EFF. And when Dali contests me in December, don't say it's a division. They say, we're in a plus. You must be very happy. Oh, there is democracy in the EFF. They contest each other. Don't equate it to a fight and the end of the infighting and the end of the EFF. Because when we don't contest each other, it's a cult. When we contest, it's a yo, it's finished. It's going the cope way. There's no way this thing will last for 6 months. There's nothing we can do. We're ready for the conference. The branches are still going through. We started very slowly as usual. You know our people like last minute arrangement. There's going to be a madness towards the deadline. That is what you call a rush hour. So once they see the deadline is coming, all of them will now want to go to their branch people's assemblies to elect delegates. We're happy this process is smooth, is quiet. There are disputes there and there where they say our branch was not taken to a BPA properly, and we're dealing with that internally every time people raise those complaints. So, and there's a general discussion amongst our leaders in the provinces and regions about where the EFF must go in terms of policy and who are the correct leaders to take the EFF to that direction we want it to go. So, so far so good. I think the conference will and should take place in Nazareth. They asked you a question about something. Answer.
Yes, about the registry, the sexual offenders registry. Yeah. We raised a lot of issues with 5 different entities, as you know. And the issue of the offenders registry cuts across the Commission for Gender Equality, the SAPS, and obviously the NPA. So we didn't raise it in a linear way, but also to address the question about that it was in relation to state employees as it is currently sort of conceptualized, because in reality it doesn't even exist. So the President spoke to a couple of those issues, but key to this is that we were trying to emphasize the issue of deterrence, that even if the rate of conviction, low as it is, between 6 and 8% as it is reported, still doesn't speak to the dire situation of gender-based violence and gynocides against specifically black women and children, because you know majority victims don't even open a case because majority victims are deterred by the criminal justice system's lackluster performance in investigating, prosecuting and convicting and keeping people in jail. So it actually deters victims, which means the point we were trying to raise was that we need a more perpetrator focused criminal justice system as opposed to this perpetrator-friendly environment. And so the issue of expanding the register, making sure that all gender-based violence and sexual offenders are actually published regularly. We even made recommendations to the President that they should use social media more often the way we do. We made an example with one of the, paid TV company that uses WhatsApp for you to report cases. Why can't the police do the same? Why can't the rest of them? So yeah, we did raise that issue firmly, but we also raised it sharply, like I said, with the Gender Commission, not just with the SAPS and with the NPA, because it requires cross-sectional work. But of course, we know that even if it does happen, they're not likely to do it anytime soon because, they're unable to update the current one that has such a limited scope. Yeah, but just as a final input, President, we have on the 7th of November, because we were supposed to have it on 3 various programs related to this issue in August, but because of obviously our program to launch, to hold branch people's assemblies, we had to push our program forward. But on the 7th of November, we'll be having 142 police station picket across the province, which covers all the police stations of Gauteng. So we're hoping to influence other provinces to do the same so that we can get into the Guinness Book of Records with just 15 to 10 people, activists in each police station.
Be like an
all women, as it has become tradition. And of course, maybe, the NPA has responded, but their response was terrible. We have a meeting coming up on next week, Wednesday, with the IPID. We're waiting for SAPS, Gender Commission, and the Public Protector to come back to us. And of course, the Constitutional Court up to today has never responded to us.
Thank you, everyone, and have an excellent day.
Thank you. No, it's okay. You dealt with it.
You finish.
Your phone. Whose phone? No, it's my phone. I would love to have the business phone. Yeah. Can't happen.
Are you fine?
No, I'm never fine.
Sure.